What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Organically podcast. This is your home of organic conversations. I am your host, the Organic Guy, and this is where we get to have conversation around how we can make our food systems work for us rather than against us. So today I have a very special guest. Is the CEO of one of the leading e-commerce platforms in Kenya. He goes by the name of Alex. So Alex, thank you very much for doing the podcast.
Thanks for inviting me. It's an honor. So my name is Alexander Osinga, which is not a lure name, and I'm the CEO of Greenspoon. And with Greenspoon, we have two missions, and that is one, helping people make healthier food choices, and also two, fixing the food system to make sure that there's more good quality, safe, fresh, delicious food delivered to people's home.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, that's an interesting fact you just mentioned about your name. If someone mentioned that name, let's say we are somewhere without seeing your face, I would automatically say, you're from Nyanza. So is it a popular name from where you come from, or how did you get that name?
It's a local name from where I come from. So I come from a very small village in the Netherlands, the most northern town of the Netherlands. So you go very, very, very north, close to the sea. A lot of agricultural production, mostly dairy, flowers. So my dad is also a flower farmer. It's a common name there, but it's not a huge name.
Oh,
I never made a connection that Osinga could actually be a lure name. But every time I came to the airport, the guy behind the counter looked at my name, looked at me, started laughing.
Yeah.
And at one point I connected the dots.
Interesting. The other thing, I noticed about you is that you like to beat your body a lot in terms of endurance. So you are into marathons, I guess.
Yes.
Where did that also come from? I mean, your family, or is something that came up? Yeah.
No, it's interesting. Yeah, I started working as a consultant when I was out of university, and I had to transition from a student lifestyle, which was involving a lot of unhealthy habits, to becoming a consultant. And my first project I did was in Germany, sitting in a hotel 4 days per week, so flying in Monday morning, flying out Thursday evening. And I don't know if you stayed in a hotel for 10 months, but you don't get the most balanced diet. And at the end I looked at myself, and I was almost 95 kgs for a guy 186 or what, that's like 6 feet or whatever. I decided something needed to change. Friends of mine signed up for a marathon. I said okay, I have run 5 kilometers in my life maybe once. Maybe I can do it as well. I couldn't, but I was really triggered after that because I hate not being able to achieve something. So I continued training, and I did my first marathon 1.5 years later. And since then I got really addicted to it, and I really enjoy doing it. And still at this moment I've done 10 marathons, 3 ultras, definitely not done. So in Loresh I run a lot, and Kenya is a beautiful place for running.
Yeah, I was about just to say that. I mean, Kenya, we are basically known for long distances. This is the perfect place for you to keep your hobby going as well.
Yeah.
So let's go back, trying to understand you as the CEO of Greenspoon, one of the fastest growing e-commerce platforms. I'm a big believer in terms of where you grew up sort of shapes you in one way or another for the person that you become eventually. So take me back to your early childhood. Who are you? I mean, in terms of if you were to go around and ask your classmates at that time, how would they describe you as a young person?
Yeah, good question. I think there's not such a big story behind me, right? I've grown up in a very stable family. My parents are together. They love each other. I have a very good relationship with my parents. I have one brother, one sister. Very stable. But you could say I'm a bit more the rebellious person of the family. So I got expelled from school at one point. So I almost couldn't do my exams. But it's a quiet area. My mom is from Suriname, which is a very small country in South America. So I think that mindset of traveling and going to new places, that I think came from my mom. My dad is very entrepreneurial. So maybe that brought everything together.
Yeah, you mentioned about traveling. So I'm just wondering why Kenya, and how did you end up choosing Kenya as, your place to come and sort of live and just work?
Yeah, I always say, to summarize it in one sentence, I've said yes a couple too many times. Now I ended up here. But first time I came in Kenya was through a former colleague who was going to do a project here in Kenya. And I literally thought, sorry guys, that you were living in huts.
Okay, interesting.
Right? This was 9 years ago. And okay. I think it was love at first sight. First week, I completely changed my mind. I had no idea what to expect. But after 1 week, I loved it. Back then, I think Junction was one of the biggest malls where everybody went to. I had my first day I had breakfast at Art Cafe. which was also really cool. And I went my first weekend, I went to the Black Diamond on Friday night. So after that, I was sold.
It was a pretty good experience, if you ask me. Greenspoon is not your like first place to work. You've worked with Biofood before, right? Yeah. So talk me through the journey of now going to Greenspoon. I mean, how was it and why did you end up in Greenspoon?
So I was working in consulting in Madrid, in the Madrid office. I always wanted to learn Spanish. So that's maybe also why my Swahili is so bad, because back then I tried really hard to learn Spanish. And then COVID hit, and it was like this train in slow motion hitting you. So I remember one day in our office, we were making fun of COVID in Milan and lockdowns and those kind of things. I think everybody remembers this period. And 3 days later, Madrid was completely locked down. So I had to leave Madrid. My time in Madrid came to an end. Never learned Spanish. It's still crap. And then I was back in the Netherlands, and my dreams were shattered, and I got in touch with Dutch investors, and they had a big problem with Bio, because Bio, dairy company, highest quality dairy that you can find here in the country, only company that's producing up to European quality standards, and they had a big problem because half of their sales was HoReCa. It was hotels, restaurants like Java House, schools that were all closed. Airport services, there were no airliners flying anymore. So they had a big problem. So they needed to come up with something new. And I came here in Kenya and tried to turn it around quite successfully. And back then, Bio was one of the first suppliers of Greenspoon, and Juliet founded Greenspoon. And through that, our chairman Joachim and Juliet came in touch, started talking, and came up with the idea that there could be a closer partnership. And in the end, the Dutch investors invested in Greenspoon. I did a lot of the investment work there. And then we were looking for a new managing director, and so I joined as the CEO of Greenspoon.
Yeah.
And that's now 3 years ago.
Yeah, interesting. So you mentioned a little bit about Greenspoon when we started, but take us through, what is Greenspoon? What does it do? Why is it dominating this space?
Very kind. Why do you think we're dominating the space?
No. We'll talk about it later, but we have a lot of e-commerces that, have raised a lot of money and they're not doing that great, right? So that's an interesting perspective. But first, you can just take us through, what Greenspoon does.
Yeah, so if we look at what is our thesis, is if you look at Kenya, there is increased urbanization, growing middle class. When people get wealthier, they start spending their money not to keep themselves alive, but buying nice things. When you get wealthier and also when you get higher paying jobs, your time relative to what you earn gets more valuable, right? Yes. So you want better things. So there's increased need for quality. There's more knowledge. Time gets more valuable. And there's increased adoption. If you bring all these kind of things together, in the food space, we saw that there was a big opportunity. And that opportunity was there already with Bio. Because with Bio, we started producing at European quality standards, which means people can get a consumer-safe product that's also tasting a lot better. And with Greenspoon, we could do that all online. And with online, and we will talk about that as well. With online, you can do a couple of things that you cannot really do with physical stores. We can sell a product that we don't have, for example, that we will own, but at that moment that we need to make the transaction, we don't have that product. There's no shelf, if you say that. That has advantages and has also disadvantages. Nairobi is not so big, so you could make it from one central point, you can supply quite a lot of customers. Yeah. Kenya has 50 million people. Nairobi has 5 million inhabitants, right?
Yeah.
That's correct. So there's 45 million people outside of Nairobi. But if you look at the concentration of wealth, it's arguably Nairobi, right? Yes. So we saw that opportunity and we started building. And we work extremely agile, like month by month by month by month. Of course, we have a big vision, but we listen to the customer and try to do the things that the customer asks us for now the most, right? Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do.
That's a good strategy, if you ask me. Something that I think separates Greenspoon with a lot of e-commerce is it's focused on high quality products. Yes. On your website, you also have a section for organic. So let's talk a little bit about that. Why did you see the need to, include organic as part of your offering? Or was it demand driven, or what was the thought behind it?
Yeah. So the reason why Greenspoon was founded by Juliet, Juliet became a mom, and they say people take care of their dogs better than themselves, and they will definitely take care of their kids more than themselves, right? Because you want to give your kids the best future that they can have. And they cannot make decisions yet. So you want to have the safest, best quality for your kid to make sure that they have the biggest chance to be successful or happy or healthy. So she started reading about food. I started reading about food and trying to find out where you could actually buy safe food. Because there was all these rumors and all these articles and all these tests that show that it's not going well with agricultural standards here in Kenya, right? It's basically an unregulated market. What happens if you have an unregulated market? There is an enormous pressure to produce as cheaply as possible, right? Without the rules, right? If we were going to play football together and I bring 11 people, but there are no rules, so you bring 15 people, who's going to win, right? And she saw that and she started talking to more people. She started talking to more suppliers, building basically a farmer's market online. And then it got catapulted by COVID, right? Because again, the great suppliers who were supplying the best hotels and restaurants didn't have a market anymore. The customers who were dining these kind of high quality products that were being served in hotels and restaurants didn't have the products anymore. So there was a sudden shift of supply and demand in the marketplace. And that's how Greenspoon grew a lot overnight, basically.
Well, not overnight.
And I think what we saw with organic, we saw the big parallels between bio, where also nobody is producing dairy at European or American quality standards.
Yeah.
And we saw the same is happening with meat, fruit and vegetables, pantry items, bread. So we saw that opportunity.
So you saw an opportunity in organic. So it was
safe food most of all, right? First of all, safe, because if we would say everything, people always ask us, is everything you sell organic? And it's like, we can't. There are many reasons, right? There's organic certification, like how organic is everything, right? Like you can be it's like with religion, you can be very strict. But we say, and it's also unaffordable for many people, let's be honest. So for us, safe is the most important, and safe is already a lot. That means for us, it's traceable to the source. We know what chemicals have been used, how they have been used, and we can visit the farmer if we want to, right? So safe is the most important thing, and organic is our premium. So we serve by far the biggest range of organic food in Kenya.
Yeah.
And we're always expanding, and we are trying to get really deep into the value chain and supply chain in understanding how we can get more farmers on board, and that can be for every product. So that's from fruit and vegetables, but also meat products and so on, rice, oils, etc., etc. So it's very exciting, right? Because it's a new market. I think retailers in Kenya have been sitting in their stores, and we are actually going out and actively looking for the best suppliers that we can find.
Yeah, interesting. So throughout that short period you've been offering organic, is there a certain set of trends, especially from a consumer's perspective, you're seeing? Maybe it's in terms of pricing or availability. Is there something you're noticing?
Yeah, look, it's a bit of a chicken egg problem, right? So what will make organic more available for everyone is if the top end of the market starts buying organic. Because if you have a very small farm and you have a very low production, you will have to charge a very high price to make a bit of money, right? And I mean, money is not the first motivator for many people, especially for the organic farmers, but it is important, right? You cannot be putting your own savings into your business in perpetuity, right? At one point that stops. So the prices at this moment are high, but we are seeing them come down very, very, very rapidly. And that's what's happening in the market, right? So if the price for 500 grams of tomatoes on the market is 50 shillings, maybe there are customers that say, okay, I would pay 70 shillings. So that means that you have the bit of the lower yield and the higher waste that you have with organic is compensated by a higher unit price. And it's developing really well. The products that we have in organic, I mean, everybody who shops from Greenspoon sees like we have a lot of back soon because we can just not keep up with the supply. But it will change, right? The nice thing about farming here in Kenya, the land is so productive. There are many farming cycles, and for farming, if you put something in the ground right now, for many products, you will have a product in a couple of months.
For sure. The other thing that is, I think it's different from Greenspoon, from other e-commerce or from other business generally in Kenya, is that you are B-Corp certified.
Yes.
So take us through what is actually being B-Corp certified mean, and why was it important for you, or else why should it be important for consumers to understand why you are B-Corp certified? Yeah,
this was one of the things that we worked on the first end. It was one of our goals, because if you look at conscious capitalism, we want to build a good business, a business that makes money, but is also taking care of all its surroundings. And that for us, it's the community, the people, it's the environment. Right? Climate impact, etc. And like with bio, we wanted to be at the highest standards that we could measure ourselves against. And the highest standards of sustainability in the world is B-Corp. So B-Corp applications take very long. They have very detailed questions about everything that you do, how what you do affects the value chain, how do you positively impact, how do you institutionalize it, right? So you have to change your bylaws, you have to change like your certificates of incorporation type of thing. That's how deep it goes. And they will check everything. And for us, it took like 2 years before we got certified. That means that in terms of sustainability, we were in the same league as companies like Patagonia, Brewdog, Ben & Jerry's. When I go to Europe, B-Corp is still very small here, right? But it will also grow. When I go to Europe, I see like every cool company is B-Corp. Yes. Okay. And that's the most important thing, right? And I think it's important for our customers. Our customers appreciate it that we are doing more than just running a business, because we care about sustainability. But what we see it most is actually in the labor market. The quality of the talent that we can attract, because we are doing more than just trying to make money. I think that's a big difference, and also an unexpected thing that I hadn't seen coming. But it's every interview that I have with a graduate or someone who just came out of after their first job, they will always say like, what I love about Greenspoon is like the sustainability angle. And that means that there is a new generation coming that is super, super inspired by this.
Talking about sustainability from a Greenspoon perspective, and then trying to connect that with sustainable farming. right? So what role do you think e-commerce has in terms of helping transform our food system into a more sustainable farming system? If you have an example of how Greenspoon has helped a farmer or two in terms of them now being online rather than depending mostly on brick and mortar normal supermarkets.
What sets us apart from our competitors is that we believe in farmers and suppliers, right? Even if there is not a product yet, we believe in them, right? So we will stand next to them and try to help them instead of saying like, okay, send me your price list and maybe we'll buy. And if your price is 5 shillings higher, I will not buy, right? And if your product expires, please take it back. We try to be good partners, right? So we don't see ourselves as customers, but we really see ourselves as partners with our suppliers. I think a very good example is Forest Foods, and it's like a company I love. Sven is an agronomist, and he knows a lot about farming, way more than I do. I know nothing actually. He is building the first agroforestry here in Kenya with the idea that if you have an agroforestry, it retains more water. It's crop succession. It's a 3D way of producing food that is powered by everything that's happening below the soil, right?
Yeah.
That could help regenerate huge parts of the land, right? Make it more productive, make it more erosion-proof, climate-proof. And we were visiting their farm already before they started producing, right? And they started producing, and of course, as you start a business, your model changes all the time. And we have been there to support them from the first moment to whatever you have, just bring it to us and we'll start selling it. And it was expensive in the first time. But now at this moment we have, for example, eggs from Forest Foods. At the moment we put them on our website, they sell out immediately. And we've helped them, coached them, given them access to customers, to test their model, to get feedback on it. And they have been extremely receptive and supportive. And they're going to build, hopefully, a business that is not only doing a couple of acres, but hopefully will build agroforestries for thousands and thousands and thousands of hectares, right?
Yeah.
And turning unproductive land into productive land that is strong enough to withstand heavy rains or heavy droughts that we're going to have here. A lot more.
Yeah. So from your perspective, it's more of giving those sustainable farmers a place for them to sell their produce.
Yes.
And also sort of feel welcomed by the products that they are offering.
Yeah, and also connecting them in the ecosystem, right? Because organic farmers still use ways to reduce pests, right?
Yeah.
So combining them with people, say like, hey, I have this new biofertilizer or I have this new bioherbicide, or we have a strawberry farmer here who has a problem, that we connect them to another strawberry farm. So we really believe in the ecosystem approach. Look, if you're a farmer, you play in a huge market, right? So that means that the level of competitiveness between you as farmers should be pretty low.
Yeah.
Right? There's a market price. You all do your best. So why don't help each other? And we can all learn something from each other.
So you're also sort of helping them build sort of a community, where they can feel like they belong in terms of trying to...
And someone who picks up the phone if they have a question. So we have a Brian, we send him to the farms to check, to help, connecting him to farmers, to suppliers. I think that's really important, right? At this very nascent stages of organic here in Kenya.
Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting. Let's talk a little bit about business. As I mentioned earlier, at least looking from the outside in, you're doing very well relative to other e-commerce platforms that have been open in Kenya.
Yeah.
So we're talking
about...
So.
Yeah. No, I wish everybody the best, by the way, but we're doing well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jumia was one of the African e-commerce platform that went public in the United States. They were called the Amazon of Africa from their IPO. Right now, their stock price is very low. Look at Sky Garden, you look at Trigger Foods, all those kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things that have been happening in the e-commerce space. Mm-hmm. So from where you're sitting, what do you think you are doing right that other e-commerce platforms are not getting right?
So there's a lot to be said about that. Let's first all start that if you look at the total timeline of business, e-commerce is pretty new, right? Yeah. And especially e-commerce in Africa. And especially the models are pretty difficult. And I'm sure of all the companies you mentioned, there are a lot of people that have worked and are working extremely hard to build something cool and new and exciting, right? Yeah. So the typical problem what you see with e-commerce is how can you balance your unit economics, right? When I evaluate a business, there are 5 things that I look at. And that's 1, are you solving a real problem? 2, the revenue model. Can you make money with that? 3, can you make profit? 4, can you scale it? And 5, do you have a model that nobody can copy, right? So that is how I look at it. So if you look at many of the platforms that are supplying Dukas, yes, there is definitely a problem, right? Because people need those products. Yeah. You can make sales with it, but 3, can you make profit with it? And 4, is it scalable? And 5, do you have such a strong moat? They call it in venture capital terms. Do you have such a strong moat that nobody can enter that market. I'm 100% sure that when the first time that you saw Uber, you thought like, this is genius, right? It's a taxi, completely offline world. Yeah. Everybody has been ripped off by taxis before. We have a platform that's going to do it. This must be it, right? Yeah. So there they had a very, very good model, right? Big problem, it's possible to make revenue, possible to make profit, very scalable. But then the fifth one was, are there other people that can come into the market? And I think you can see now still in the market, there's always new taxi companies coming in, right? The reason that Uber is doing so extremely well at this moment is because they have like tried to work on that mode, right? To make like a superior customer experience that just brings in more revenue and brings in more taxi drivers. Yeah. People just find the experience better. And I think that in the e-commerce companies that we have seen, most of them have started bottom up, right? Yeah. So if you look at the Kenyan population, we estimate that our market for Greenspoon is maybe a couple of 100,000 people. So that's not a lot.
5 million, yeah.
Yeah, it depends. Like if you pitch to a venture capital firm, is it better to focus on the couple of 100,000 people that control 80% of the consumer spend, right? Yeah. Not of the total money, but of that 80% of the consumer spend. Yeah. Or do you focus on the other 50 million, right? And when you focus on the other 50 million, you end up with very low average order values because there is an infrastructure already. Yeah. Dukas have been supplied over the past 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, right? Yeah. There is an infrastructure already. And can you deliver so much value to those Dukas that they will choose you? And why do people buy from you? That is always a very good question to ask, right? Yeah. Because it's always better that when people buy from you because you offer insane convenience or insane quality. If the reason is only price, then it becomes very, very, very difficult because you end up in a market where there's very little margin over the value chain, where working capital is broken in so many ways, right? Yeah, people are buying one cigarette at a time, or people are buying one piece of chewing gum at a time, right? So order values are being cut everywhere over the supply chain, and a Duka manages their cash flow by the hour, right? Yeah. If they've sold something, maybe they will get some new stock. But if they haven't sold something, it's very difficult to combine that with a logistics model that needs to depend on huge drop sizes in order to be profitable. What we have been doing, we are in a very dense area. Yeah. Our customers, we have started at the wealthiest customers of Kenya, and that gives us good basket size, right? Yeah. If you shop for a whole week, that
covers for the
and it can be everything, right? Fruit and vegetables, pantry, meat, wine, spirits, everything. So those baskets are very sizable. So the profitability for one drop for us is much better than for some of the other platforms.
Yeah, okay, I think that makes sense, especially from a specificity point of view. I mean, when you look at platforms like Amazon, when they started, it was just a bookstore, right?
Yeah.
So they are
0 to 1. Yeah. If you look at, I don't know if you've read the book 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
Not yet.
Yeah, that's definitely one which everybody should read if you go into a business. Okay. What Peter Thiel says, it's very simple. Start with a small market where you can actually win. And small markets are typically ignored by big players. So you can figure it out, you can build your business there, and then expand from there, right? And the parallels with Greenspoon are so clear because online it's very much ignored by the big retailers, right? Yeah. Naiva still doesn't have a good online platform. Generana and Quickmart don't have a good online platform, right? Carrefour works together with a lot of third-party suppliers, right? In terms of the delivery or even the ordering. Yeah. And that is just, they have underestimated how big that market potentially is. Yeah. And that market will get big.
Yeah, I think also that makes sense. The other thing, apart from focusing on the niche, is focusing on the high end of the market. Because if you look at innovation, especially tech innovations, yes. For example, when cars came out fast, very rich people could afford it, right? And then as time goes on, everybody can now seem to afford it. Laptops, phones, all those kind of things.
Absolutely. So you can Mercedes always tests the newest technology in the S-Class, right? Yeah. Because a low number of units, high R&D, high production costs per unit, so it's expensive. So you would only put it in the most expensive vehicles.
Yeah. I think that kind of makes sense.
Like Greenspoon will not be a niche player for long.
Yeah. Happens. It's part of the evolution, I think.
That's part of the evolution. And we are in a very comfortable situation in the sense that we have strong customer base in many areas in Nairobi. Yeah. I hope you see our vans driving around often. Do you see our vans driving around? The Greenspoon vans? No, you don't? Oh, shit. Then we need more.
I've seen a couple.
Yeah. We hope.
I think it's one of those phenomenons where if you are aware of something, then you see it a lot. Okay. If you're not aware of something, then you don't.
I see our vans all the time, but it must be me.
Yeah.
But we need. Where do you live? Limuru. Yeah, okay. Yes. Okay, Limuru, we still need to do some work. Yeah. But we'll get there. And you? Embakasi, that's also, we still have to go there a lot, but we will get there, right? We will go to Embakasi, Buru-Buru, Karsarani, Langata, Ruaka, like all the tier 2, I would say, right? Here, where people are definitely middle class, but are they as high-end as in Runda, Levington, Karen, Gigiri, Kitisuru, etc., etc. So that is definitely phase 2. And then hopefully phase 3, we can do Eldoret, Nakuru, Umoja. Yeah, we can go everywhere. But that's,
whatever you feel there's demand for your products. Yeah.
And the customer will always tell you what's right? If the customer will tell you if they're ready, right? You can put something in front of the customer. If they don't buy it, they're not yet ready, or your offering is not good enough, which also makes sense. And we, like what I said, we build its adjacent circles.
Sort of to help you scale when you want to. Okay. You are part of the Nairobi Business Angel.
Yes.
It's all about investments. I mean, now you have like your teeth in this space. Maybe these are entrepreneurs listening to this and, they're wondering, how can I raise money? Okay, we've seen money is not everything, but it's just part of the equation, yeah? So from your experiences working with startups who want to raise money, what advice do you have for them, or what do you usually look from those entrepreneurs, from the business themselves?
Okay, I'm a terrible fundraiser. There are definitely a lot more better people in the market that can raise a lot more money than I can.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. However, I'm learning fast, because what I do in terms of how I fundraise is same as what I'm doing with business. I iterate. I call myself sometimes like one of these robot vacuum cleaners, right? So I hit the wall, then I turn around and make something new. It depends on what you want to build with your business, right? So there are very small business models that can be extremely profitable, right? Having a network of 10 car washes or 10 people who do lawn mowing can be insanely profitable, right? But it depends on what your ambition is, right? And I think you're suggesting if you want to build like a $10 million revenue startup, right? Yeah. Now, I would first look at the long-term vision, right? If everything succeeds, what would you want to build? And is that big enough, interesting enough and stuff? But it doesn't mean you start building that from day one, right? So you start with the smallest possible market that you can, with minimum capex, get very high buy-in from customers. So a very big problem for a small group of customers is perfect. And that typically means that you do something better, you do it faster, or you do it cheaper, which I would not recommend because it's a difficult business model. Then talking about fundraising and stuff is talking through your business model with a lot of people. And look, people who are ahead of you, and people who are ahead of you will always try to help you, right? It's people that you are leaving behind that will not try to help you, right? Because they're like, why have you quit your job, right? Why have you could have just become a lawyer, right? Yeah. Especially if you start becoming an entrepreneur. So I've never been brave enough to completely stop my job to become an entrepreneur. But I rolled into this, and find people who can tell you the truth and ask them, and then do listen. Because what I see in many entrepreneurs is they ask for advice and then they don't listen. Yeah. And that's just a waste of time, right? And there's no easier way than to throw away your total credibility if you don't listen to advice from people you've asked for help. So that's what I would do. And then in terms of fundraising, like what I said, there are some people in the market who are extremely good fundraisers. Find a couple of these people and make a very good pitch deck. There are so many good resources on YouTube that tell you how to make a very good pitch deck. There's one from Y Combinator, I think, which is absolutely insane. Yeah. I think it's really good. And get your pitch deck grilled all the time, right? Because the difficult thing of a pitch deck is it's only a couple of pages and you want to say everything. Yeah. But you can't, because your business is so much more, and so many things of your business are relevant to you, but they will not be relevant to the investor. So try to be 100% clear, 80% complete, iterate on the pitch deck, go to an investor, get rejected, which will happen all the time. Yeah. Get rejected and improve. And ask the investor, like, why don't you, you can always learn. You can always learn. Like that is in the end, the people who are the most, who get the most successful in business are the people who learn and iterate, and you get smacked down on the ground and you just get up again. Yeah. And like the other day, I make pretty good slides. I would always say I'm an ex-consultant, strategy consultant, so I advised big multi-billion-dollar companies, right? So I thought my slides were pretty good, and always people said that I make good slides. So I sent one of my pitch decks to an exited entrepreneur who started a grocery startup, because I thought like that would be the ideal person to invest in my company. Yeah. And I've been so persistent with him, and he said like, okay, I can talk to you next week, and like weeks, right? Now next week I have time, next week, but then nothing happened, right? So at one point he said like, okay, you've been so annoying, send me your pitch deck. I sent it to him. He responded within 2 hours and said like, I had a look at your pitch deck. It looks awful. It will be very difficult to raise money with this shit. It says a lot about you that you don't have your standards right. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But that's great, right? So someone who is ahead of you, right?
Giving you
it says like, yeah, look, your standards are not where they should be, right?
Yeah.
And that's good. It's very easy to always be comfortable and tell yourself everything is going well. We have a great business. We're growing. Customers are happy, blah, blah, blah. But if you want to play in a different league, you also need to adhere to the standards of a different league. And I looked at my pitch deck and I said like, yeah, it's actually crap.
Yeah.
So then made a better pitch deck.
Is there a section of investment you're looking at? I mean, is there a category that you're interested in investing in?
So what I believe works for Africa is I don't believe strict software works.
Yeah.
Internationally, it also will not work in the long term, except if you have a very strong moat.
In the long term, okay.
So what is happening, it's very interesting. What is happening is that because of AI, ChatGPT is bad at a couple of things, but there are some things that ChatGPT is really good at, and it's developing. So what you see is productivity of developers is really increasing. So you can suddenly master a lot more languages, master a lot more things, because ChatGPT masters all the languages, right? So you can say like, oh, I had this piece of code. Can you write it in this language? And ChatGPT will take a minute.
Yeah.
And it could have taken, hey, there's a bug in my code. Can you find, and every developer will tell you 90% of my time I'm actually not building. I'm spending my time fixing bugs, right? And if ChatGPT can find bugs, the productivity of developers will go up. So you have a whole series of companies that have been funded really well, that built very expensive SaaS, that have promised a lot of annual recurring revenue, right? Because the theory is you buy software from me, you will in perpetuity pay me for that license, right?
Yeah.
However, that holds until there is someone coming that has a similar product for half the price or 20% of the price. And you see now there are guys that are leaving these SaaS startup. They find a group of people of 10. They say, you make a very nice product. I'm going to copy the product that you have, but it's going to be 90% cheaper.
Yeah.
And that is a very difficult space for the traditional SaaS companies, because every company spends so much money on licenses. I mean, we always look at the licenses. How can we reduce our licensing cost? Yeah. And if there's a company that sells the same thing, it's a very simple sales channel, right? I'm selling you Office at 10% of the price.
Yeah.
It's you would be interested, like, okay, so I have 100,000 people working in my company. I'm spending $100 per month per user on Office, or $100 per year. Okay, you tell me I can save 90% of my cost.
You think about it.
I'll think about it, right? Let me take that call. So that's very interesting. So what I look for in looking when we evaluate investments here in Kenya or in Africa in general is these 5 steps, right? Do you have a customer problem? Can you make a revenue model? Can you make a profit model? Is it scalable, and does it have strong enough barriers to entry? So we look at that, and we believe that, or our thesis for this market is, you need to have technology-enabled something, and that doesn't need to be software always, but it can also be a machine, right? If you and I will start a Mandazi business, and we've come up with a super hyper deluxe Mandazi business that can produce Mandazis at 10% of the cost of what the competitors can do. That's also tech enabled, right?
Yeah.
That's also tech enabled, in my view.
Yeah.
We with our group, we have a feed mill for fish feed.
Yeah.
That is also very tech enabled, right? So the company is running for a year. It's super profitable, and that's also tech enablement, right? Yeah. So we look at tech enabled linked to real economy, right? Growing markets, an opportunity to go into significant markets. So whether you start high end or whether you start low end, preferably for us high end, moving towards a growing mass market.
Okay. Is it good enough for you to keep going in the market?
Yeah. And that's how we evaluate investments. And we're always open, but there are not many
that fit the bill, I guess.
That is because that's also what people forget when they're fundraising is people who have money, they get a lot of requests. Yes. I mean, you must know, like if you're making the most money of the family, you get the most requests, right? Can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? People who have money, they get a lot of proposals, and they don't need to invest.
In you,
Right? And I mean, really that doesn't mean that the rejection, that you should listen why they reject proposal, but there are 100 reasons. There only needs to be one no or maybe. Yeah. People are like, okay, let me pass this one.
Yeah. Okay. So since you're already in this space, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I mean, you can sort of give us an idea of how we can solve our farming problems, right? So there's a lot of chat about climate change and how it's going to affect our food. Our food has less nutrients than it used to have.
Yes.
So from your perspective and where you sit, what can we do from an e-commerce perspective or from farmers' perspective to help make our food systems more sustainable?
I think we should pay for quality and think long term. Right. If we say like this is the way we want to do it, we need to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
So consumer driven, right?
Yeah, it's consumer driven, right? And I'm very skeptical about agricultural initiatives that don't take the end consumer in mind, right? I think there's a lot of money going to a lot of farming projects that when that money is going out, that those projects will go down. There's a lot of money going to smallholders, and I don't know how you look at it, but
to smallholds,
like really smallholders, right? So people who have 2 cows or like quarter of an acre of maize. I don't think that's the goal of the country, right? I don't think if you look at Kenya and you would make a blueprint of Kenya in 50 years, I don't think we would hope that 48 million people of the 50 million are farmers. Sorry to say, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I have tremendous respect for the farming job, and it's great.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's great that you are so much more connected to your food still than Europeans are.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the highest leverage, highest yielding activity that people can do, right?
Yeah.
The world is aging rapidly in Europe, Japan, US, etc. There's so many rapidly aging populations. So let's hope that the future of this country can contribute to the biggest problems, right? And have more consolidation in our farming systems.
Yeah. So your solution is more of consumer driven.
Yes.
So consumers need to look for this more sustainably grown products.
Yeah. So like what with bio, what we do is, for example, nobody asks us to produce at that higher European standard, right? Except the customer.
Yeah.
Bio is still growing very fast, and we're not doing so many different things than what we were doing over the past years. It's just more consumers that getting aware, that taste the difference, that try the product once and say like, wow, I want this always. And how we did it with bio is go to farmers, teach farmers what they could do and pay them a better price if they give us more volume and better quality. Someone needs to break the cycle.
Yes.
And that's very often helped through monetary compensation for stimulating the right behavior.
Behaviors, yeah.
And then it even helps more if the government would also say, like, you need to have a permit to, not everybody can become a farmer. Sorry, if you're a supermarket and you sell stuff that is not under a permit, you get fines, right?
Yeah.
Hey farmer, these are the quality standards. Hey farmer, these are chemicals that have been banned in Europe. Let's also ban them here, right? And there are all these reasons why it's not possible, because like we're in the tropics and those kind of things. But have a vision as a government, like European Union doesn't ban chemicals next year. They have predictability in the market. Say, hey guys, in 5 years, this chemical is going to be
gone.
Yes, we thought it was okay. It's still okay-ish, but we can get better. So let's phase that one out. And that's predictability, right? It's for, in the end, you cannot tell manufacturers overnight this stuff where you have put, and it's very bad for investments, right? Yeah. And everybody is helped by predictability. And that's here in Kenya. Like, I mean, I don't know, with this finance bill, what everybody is talking about, like what makes it annoying for people is that there's no constant policy, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, hey guys, in 3 years, this is our roadmap. Yeah. In a couple of years, this will happen. No, it's always changing. Now this goes up. Now this goes down. And people have invested in companies, and because that's like they trusted that the regulatory landscape was going to be constant. But if the rules of the games change overnight, it's very difficult for companies to adapt, which reduces foreign direct investments. And that's something that Kenya definitely cannot use. Kenya needs all the partners it can find to go through this very difficult period, right? But everybody is feeling.
Yeah. So as we finish here, maybe this will be a first in this podcast. Give us a little bit of a gist of what we should expect from Greenspoon moving forward. Is there a direction you're looking at? Yes. Is there some developments that you think you're targeting the next few years?
So we have a very simple thesis, right? And that is like it's very parallel to what Jeff Bezos says, right? He says like a lot of companies, a lot of investors are looking at what's going to change in the market, but I'm looking at what's going to stay constant, right? And for us, it's what is going to be constant. People will always want better food, right?
Yeah.
You want to have it faster delivered or more convenient to get. You don't want to drive all over town. Yeah. And you want to get it more affordable. And everything that we do is around that. Does it make the product better? Is it easy? Does it make it's easier to use, and does it make it more affordable? And that's what we're working on. And I mean, we've just started, and great businesses don't get built over a period of 5 years of time. So we'll probably use 10 years. Yeah, that's what we're working on.
Yeah, I think that's a very underrated perspective in terms of business, looking in the long term rather than in the short term. Having that long term view, I think it's something that needs to be embraced more often.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, at least for the long term, right?
Yeah.
So for us, and also if you look at what we are doing compared to some of these e-commerce companies that are really struggling is we do look at profitability a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's not like...
And you're profitable already or not?
Yeah, it depends on how you look at it, but not not in the strictest sense of the word, right?
Okay.
But we do have our burn rates really well, really well under control. I would love to have been more profitable, right? But it's not definitely profitability for us. We have had our first profitable months, right?
Yeah.
So we've proven that actually the model could work, but we are still very early. And if tomorrow our investors would say, guys, we don't have any money in the bank, we could be profitable tomorrow. And it's not that, it's sometimes also very good for a startup, right? Because startups, they sometimes forget why they were a startup, right? They become bulky, they become slow, they become bureaucratic, too many people wanting to be relevant. And we could be profitable tomorrow, but it would jeopardize in some way what we're trying to build, right?
Yeah, the innovation.
Right? And then our offering would stagnate and we would be slower, right? But we could be profitable tomorrow. Okay. And that's always a nice thing to have. And that's also for every aspiring entrepreneur, especially if the oncoming investor has said the money will be in the bank by, don't count on it. It's not. It's probably not going to happen. It will always take at least 6 months to 12 months.
Yeah.
Until the money is in the bank, don't change anything.
Yeah. I think we saw that real life example of Copier, right? They have already attracted a lot of investments into Copier, but once there was a slight decline in terms of funding, then things got really bad really quick, right? Yep. So I think having that caution.
And that's horrible, right? It's horrible for everybody involved. It's horrible for the customers. It's horrible for the employees, right? I mean, I don't think there's any CEO who's very happy if they have to write a letter and say like everybody is gone. It's horrible for the suppliers. It's horrible for the investors. It's a lose situation, right? Yeah. And I mean, so much work has gone into it. People who have a vision, who try to do something and building something great, and then it doesn't work out. That's just it's just heartbreaking. Yeah. There have been so many stories behind it. It's so many families that must be affected by this, not to be underestimated.
Absolutely. So I think that conversation was awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to listen to this podcast will find it very insightful. So I want us to go a little bit quick to a segment we're called Quick Fire.
Yes.
So I have prepared like 10 questions for you.
Yes.
So it's a quick fire. So just quick, short answers to the question will be great. And hopefully from this, guys will be able to know you a little bit better.
Great.
Yeah. So are you ready to fire the question?
Fire away.
Okay. So the first question is, what's the first career you dreamt of having as a kid?
Football player.
If you had to eat one meal going forward, what would you eat?
Yeah, something with chicken. I would say chicken fries. Is that one? Does that count as one meal?
Yeah, it does. So the third question is, who is your favorite historical figure?
Steve Jobs, I would say.
What sports do you like to watch or participate in?
Running.
So the fifth question is, what's your favorite beverage, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
So
I drink a lot of coffee, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Dutch love coffee. I mean, the fact that I went to stay there was one of the reasons why I began to like coffee as well.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends were drinking coffee. I was like, okay, maybe I should try it. And
I drink a lot of coffee.
Stuck.
I drink like 6-7 cups, so I can drink even easily.
6?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can even do at night, like before my workouts, I do like 2 double espressos. I'm not as strong as you, but it gets me like, that's my pre-workout.
Ah, okay.
What do you use as pre-workout, or you don't use
anything?
No,
I don't use anything.
Just natural.
Yeah, it's natural.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. So the sixth question is, what's your favorite book?
Ooh, business or fiction? Anything.
Just
I think like I love Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Yes, I've read all the books, and just like the only book that I remember back is like this hit me so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the seventh question is, if you could have any animal in the world as a pet, what would it be and why?
Leopard, something. Yeah.
Leopard?
That's cool, right?
Yeah. Okay.
If we could be friendly, yeah.
Yeah. So the eighth question is, are you an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird, definitely.
Early bird. Okay. The ninth question, what quote resonates with you most?
Probably like we live to fight another day, right?
Okay.
We live to fight another day. We just continue every day, keep grinding and make something better and greater.
So the last question is, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Ask for help and listen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So yeah, that's it. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for being open in terms of sharing your experiences and your knowledge that you've gathered through these years. So I hope a lot of guys will enjoy it. So Greenspoon, they can just go to Greenspoon.
Greenspoon.co.ke. We have an amazing app on the App Store, amazing app on the Play Store. If there's anything you don't understand, just WhatsApp us. We respond in a couple of minutes. We deliver under 99 minutes. We have everything you need.
Under 99 minutes. Is this by design or?
Of course.
Oh, okay. Nice.
99 minutes, and we have the widest range of organic products that you can imagine.
All right. So till the next time, guys, be organic.